Hi team, today's text that you're going to be reading or listening along to is Conquering Fears and Phobias. Conquering Fears and Phobias. We know what fears are, and to conquer something means to overcome it. So to overcome fears and phobias. All right, we know that we need to think about the genre of this text, so we're going to start reading and looking through the text to see if we can find some helpful clues. I'm noticing something as I scroll that's telling me I'm pretty sure I know the genre. I see Taming the Fear, Extreme Fears, Fear or Phobia. I hope you're thinking nonfiction. We know that when there's headings about the title, it's usually nonfiction because those headings tell us what we're going to learn in each section. Like I think we're going to learn about extreme fears in this section. When I start reading though, Darla jumped when the ghost popped out of the bushes. I can't believe I'm scared, she thought, heart pounding. It's Halloween. That's just someone dressed up like a ghost. Everyone gets scared sometimes. Okay, this first paragraph is kind of tricky. This is called the hook. This is where the author pulls the reader in by getting them interested. This author chose to get the reader interested by talking about when a girl gets scared of a ghost, because I think the author believes that we can relate to that. So like I can imagine that happening to me. I can imagine being out on Halloween and like someone dressing up as a ghost and it's scaring me. Now, that makes me think it might be fiction because it sounds like a story with a character and a problem and a solution. However, as I keep reading, right away it starts to sound like it's factual information. Everyone gets scared sometimes. It's a normal reaction. You need that reaction to survive. When faced with a threat, it's useful to be afraid and get out of the way so you won't get hurt. You can also learn fears through experience. Okay, so as you see, they're already starting to teach us stuff. Fear or phobia. All of these headings are telling me this is going to be factual information, and they're teaching me about fears. And remember, conquer means to overcome, so it sounds like they might teach me how to not be scared. Okay. I know this is nonfiction based on what I've read and seeing the headings. I know the author wrote this to teach me something about fears and how to overcome them. All right, let's think through the questions so you know how to answer them. What is a phobia? Okay, this text is literally called Conquering Fears and Phobias. Go find where they told you about phobias and click the answer that is true. It says it in the text. Do not guess. Number 2. One problem mentioned in the passage is that some people cannot get over their phobias on their own. So they're telling us, they told us in the text, some people can't get over their phobias on their own. You should remember reading that. If you don't, go back to the text and find it. Then it says, what is the solution to this problem? Well, you read about this problem, and then I'm sure they told you the solution. Go back to the text, find this problem, and then keep reading to see what the solution is. Not a guessing game. Go find it in the text. Number 3, fear is not always a bad thing. What evidence from the text supports this conclusion? Okay, we know that when it asks us about evidence supporting, we have to pick the answer that proves this statement. So we have to pick A, B, C, or D, and whichever one proves that fear is not always a bad thing. So I'm already thinking that my answer has to say like that being scared isn't necessarily bad. Maybe being scared can be a good thing. Maybe being scared can help you. Find the answer that best matches that fear is not always a bad thing. How can the treatment options for people with phobias be described? Well, I don't know. You have to go read the text. Go find the part where they talk about treatment options for people with phobias, which means people who have really intense fears get treated. They can go get help. How do they get help? What did the text tell you about treatment options for people with phobias? Not a guessing game. Go find it. What is the main idea of this passage? You should have written this down. It was what the author was mostly teaching you. Read through them and find which one the author was mostly teaching you throughout the entire text. I think all 4 of these are true, but only one of them is what the whole text was about. Number 6, read these sentences. Doctors believe that most of these phobias, like Greg's, are learned. But in some cases, a phobia follows an unrelated trauma, such as a death in the family. As used in the passage, what does the word trauma mean? Okay, first of all, this sentence up here is telling you that doctors think that most phobias are learned. So like for Greg, whatever bad thing happened to him made him learn that that was something to be scared of, okay? However, in some cases, a phobia follows an unrelated trauma, such as a death in the family. So what they're saying is like if someone has a trauma, like a death in the family, that person might get a phobia that has nothing to do with that. So maybe someone in the family dies and then that person starts getting really scared of spiders. And it has nothing to do with that trauma. It just happens. So now the question is, what does trauma mean? And what it's telling me is that a trauma, an example of that is a death in the family. So what is something here that could mean a death in the family? A meeting, a failure, a difficult event, or an accident. Now I feel like the only two are C and D. Which one means trauma? Choose the answer that best completes the sentence. Some phobias have weird names. Blank. Arachnophobia, fear of spiders, or brontophobia, fear of thunderstorms. Okay, remember, we're trying to get better at this, and I'm going to explain these words. I'm going to try to explain them very clearly, and then we're going to talk about how they connect these two ideas. This first idea is telling us something. Some phobias have weird names. They're giving us a fact. And then this part of the sentence gives us examples. So like some phobias have weird names, and then they're like, look, this is a weird name for a phobia, and this is a weird name for a phobia. Okay, now we're going to talk about what these words mean. When we use the word however, we're saying something different, kind of like the word but. So like you might say, some phobias have weird names. However, some don't have weird names. Some have normal names. Do they mean that this first part of the sentence is very different and opposite almost of this part of the sentence? Or is that not how these two ideas connect? Okay, otherwise. Otherwise means that the first part of the sentence has to happen or the second part won't. So like otherwise is used when you're saying, if something, this will happen. And then otherwise is saying like, if this first part doesn't happen, this next part will happen. So are we trying to connect arachnophobia, fear of spiders, to some phobias have weird names by saying that like if some phobias don't have weird names, then arachnophobia, fear of spiders? Or is that not what we're saying? All right, finally is a transition word. Finally means last. So you would use finally to describe like the ending of something. So the question is, does this come before this? And is it like first this happened and then in the end this happened? Or are these not in order and we don't need a transition word like finally? And then your last choice is such as. And such as is like example. So when we use such as, we're giving examples of something, right? So like if I say, I ate fruit today, such as apples and oranges. That gives you examples of the fruit I ate. So you're thinking, is this second part of the sentence examples of the first part? Did they name something and then give you examples of that? If so, you're going to use such as. Okay, hopefully we're getting better at that. What is the difference between regular fears and phobias? They taught you that in the text. Go find it, type it out. The difference between regular fears and phobias is that regular fears are blah, 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 blah. But phobias are blah, blah, blah. Prove it. What are 3 possible effects of phobias? Go find it. They told you 3 things that could happen from having a phobia. What 3 things could happen? One possible effect of phobias is blank. Another possible effect of phobias is blank. A third possible effect of phobias is blank. 3 possible effects. Go find it. Okay, this last question is about your opinion. You need to have read the text, but then you need to think about it. Read these sentences from the text. Everyone gets scared sometimes. It's a normal reaction. You need that reaction to survive. When faced with a threat, it's useful to be afraid and get out of the way so you won't get hurt. Now that's true. They're telling you it is good to be scared of things if they're going to hurt you. So for example, children are scared of the stove because they know that it's hot and it could hurt you. So if a child sees like a hot stove, they're not going to touch it because they're scared it will hurt them. That's helpful. That's useful. That keeps them safe. So now they want you to think about that, and they want you to think, is that true about phobias? Are phobias useful? Can phobias help people? And if so, you're going to say, I think phobias can be useful because blah, blah, blah. Or you're going to think, I don't think phobias are useful. Fears can help keep you safe, but phobias might not help you. They just kind of hurt you. If that's what you think, you need to prove it. Why are phobias not useful? All right, do your best.